The NFL is not racist. Okay? The NFL is not racist. A couple different things. One, you have an African-American athlete who's alleged to have beaten a woman who gets picked up on waivers, right? Like, it's if you can play or they think you can't play if they have any sort of value from you. Here's another one. Ravens cornerback Jimmy Smith told Robert Klemko of Sports Illustrated, any black quarterback, especially with that type of speed, you get labeled that he can't throw, but he can throw. We have gone to the point now where black players don't even know what the stereotype used to be. It was an incorrect stereotype. But the stereotype used to be about the black quarterback. No one has ever said the black quarterback couldn't throw. What the racial stereotype used to be about quarterbacks that were black was they couldn't handle an NFL playbook. Remember, this is going back, and Warren Moon, of course, we can have him on. Warren Moon threw about as pretty a football as possible. But the stereotype was, in the 60s and 70s and early 80s, it was that a black quarterback couldn't handle an NFL playbook. That's it. That was the stereotype. Right? And, of course, Doug Williams, who we were just talking about with the Redskins, he was famously the first black quarterback to ever win a Super Bowl. And he was famously asked the question, how long have you been a black quarterback? But it was by a foreign journalist, and it was kind of lost in translation or whatever. No one ever said, ever said that Lamar Jackson couldn't throw a football. There's YouTube video of him throwing it 80 yards in high school. What they did say was Lamar Jackson couldn't always throw it to the guy he wanted to throw it to. That was the problem. That he was little, that he was non-communicative, that he was either not particularly bright or took the advice of his mom and didn't have an agent. Here's what actually happened. Okay? Actually happened. His mom represented him. And when teams wanted to work him out, they couldn't get a hold of him because they couldn't get a hold of her. And that's not the way it works. Like, there's certain agents that represent all the quarterbacks. Why? Because they know how all this stuff works. I told people this before. Like, look, I give 10% of my check to a guy who I think is a great agent. I had two really good agents. They've been doing it for a long time. Now, do I like giving up 10% of my check? Hell no, I don't. But you know what? This is what they do for a living. And they've done it for a long time. And I would prefer the safety net of being put in the best possible position to succeed. He didn't, and it was a disaster. Additionally, when he went for the whiteboard, he was way behind in terms of his football knowledge. And he's just not a super communicative guy. That's not his personality. And that's also opposite of most quarterbacks' personalities. Has nothing to do with if they're white or black. It just has to do with the position. Like, oh, well, like you're being critical of his personality because he's black. No, Jay Cutler's personality rubbed everybody the wrong way. Johnny Manziel's arm strength got criticized. So did his off-the-field baggage. Tim Tebow was not a smart quarterback. He wasn't. He couldn't throw. Why? Because that's how he played. But the worst part is that Jimmy Smith, who plays in the NFL, doesn't even know what the old stereotype was, which was wrong, about black quarterbacks. You know, he's a black quarterback, he's out of speed, so he can't throw. Nobody ever said that Mike Vick couldn't throw. Mike Vick couldn't throw short and intermediate routes. Mike Vick couldn't read a defense because Mike Vick, by his own account, didn't work at it. Because what happens is we fast-track these guys through. Fast-track them through. They're so ridiculously athletic and explosive at the position, and they can throw that, did they read the play right? Doesn't matter. They just do it. They just make plays. Brett Favre was considered dumb. Terry Bradshaw was considered dumb. So what were there previous racial stereotypes about black quarterbacks not being able to read a defense, not being able to understand the position? Yes. Okay. But we've evolved past that. Evolved past. If you can play quarterback, they will have you play quarterback in the NFL. Whether you're white or you're black, you're mixed race, you're Hispanic, you're Hawaiian like Tua is, or Marcus Mariota is. They don't care. We won't win football games. What they said about Lamar Jackson, and I talked to a team who said, hey, we did evaluate him as a wide receiver because we don't think long-term he can play quarterback. Because they'll figure out what you're doing, and he is not communicative, and he's not somebody who's going to be good in the pocket. He's little, and though he's fast, he's inaccurate. And he was, I believe, a below 60% completion guy at Louisville playing for a really good offensive-minded head coach. Now, he was a freak athlete. He made plays, and he'll still make some plays. You're like, wow. But as I said yesterday, tell me the athletic quarterback that's been outside the pocket that's worked. Even Steve Young. Doesn't last long term. Doesn't last long term. Ty Montgomery said this to Sports Illustrated. It's kind of hard to listen to TV when they question his ability to throw a ball because he can throw a ball. No one's ever said he can't throw a ball. Zero. There is not a single human being that's like, he can't throw a football. No. It was, can he throw a football accurately? Like Josh Allen. Is Josh Allen white? He's white, correct? And what do they say about Josh Allen? Josh Allen can throw it 100 miles into the driving rain, into the wind. But dude, Josh Allen, he can't throw it to the right team. He misfires. We don't no one has, in the last 20 years, has evaluated a player's ability to throw a football based upon the color of their skin. Is he athletic? Yeah, he's freaky athletic. But he's little, non-communicative, and in terms of throwing a football, the only thing that has ever been in question is, can you throw it to the right person? That is actually a prerequisite for playing football in the National Football League. Brady Quinn, who we have on here. Why did Brady Quinn last in the National Football League? Because he was inaccurate. He was inaccurate. And Brady will tell you one thing. I know somebody who coached him in the NFL is like, look, man, I think he was just too, like Brady. Have you ever seen Brady Quinn with his shirt off? Like that dude is, I think he's actually done modeling. He's just too yoked up. People thought he was inflexible, not as a human being, as an athlete. He may be inflexible as a human being too. I don't know. But we got to stop with this nonsense about it. This reminds me of people who criticize others. They shame people for Halloween costumes that they call blackface. Like, look, I don't think there's a real win in getting dressed up as a black person or whatever. But if you want to get dressed up and as LeBron James, like that's not blackface. Blackface is highly offensive. Highly offensive. But blackface is, again, it was playing up negative stereotypes about black people back in the 1920s. But what happens is, over the years, people don't know what actual blackface is. So if you get dressed up as a black person, like you're doing blackface, like, no, I'm actually just getting dressed up as Janet Jackson, or I don't even know what the win is in it but people aren't even smart enough to know what it is or to do a little bit of research. So to Jimmy Smith and to Ty Montgomery is a smarter dude than that. Jimmy Smith, I just think you get so defensive about Lamar Jackson. No one has ever said he can't throw. It's, can he throw accurately? Can he run a huddle? Can he read a defense? Can he communicate to the offense what they're running and what they want to switch into?